Twitter fans in the crowd, thank you so much. Hello, OOW19, hashtag OOW19. So glad to be here, so glad for this opportunity. Thank you, Oracle, thank you, Code One, thank you all for being here this afternoon. So I'm going to talk about this topic, which is near and dear to my heart. It's a four-letter word, and I use this four-letter word often, so I hope it doesn't offend you. The word is data. I talk about data a lot in my life. I use data a lot in my life. But see where this starts. 49 years ago, imagine 49 years ago, oh my gosh, I can't even think that far back, but imagine 49 years ago, a 15-year-old high school kid who had a vision and a dream to become an astronomer, an astrophysicist, ran across a book that was basically just tables and tables of tabulated data. Data giving the positions of the stars, the planets, the moons around the planets, the sun, the moon, all these things, eclipses, all these events, all tabulated when and where and how. And there was equations in the back of this book explaining how they derived these numbers. Well, I was just probably my first real experience with data, like there's hundreds of pages of numbers as a person who loved numbers and math to begin with. Seeing all these numbers, seeing this data as sort of the basis of science was really inspiring to me. But then to see there were mathematical equations that were related to this, i.e. there were models related to that data. And crazy enough, my high school at that time, 1970, yes, that's how old I am, got a connection with a 110 baud modem to the local university computer, where we actually learned Fortran, and I learned how to code those equations, and for the first time in my life, I knew exactly the path that I was on. It was science, it was math, it was data, it was coding. And it hasn't really diverged much from that in 49 years. Now, yes, I've had a few jobs along the way. I work with the Hubble Space Telescope. I was the archive project scientist for the Hubble Space Telescope at Johns Hopkins University for 10 years. I worked at NASA as a contract manager, managing the Astrophysics data system for 10 years. I was professor of astrophysics and computational science, as mentioned, at George Mason University for 12 years. But guess what? During all those 12 years as professor of astrophysics, I never taught an astrophysics course. I taught data science. We started the world's first undergraduate data science degree program 13 years ago, because the reason I left NASA and the reason we did that program is because it already became clear to me after 2 decades working at NASA with data, both as my day job and my night job as an astronomer, could see that data was not just growing astronomically in the sciences, but everywhere else in the world. And it became really clear that data was going to be the basis for every job, every profession. Every person needed to have some kind of aptitude, skill, or literacy around data. And I said, so I decided to leave my NASA position. I'll go to the university, and we formed this data science degree program to actually teach the next generation how to use data, what is data. And it was within a computational science program where we taught coding along with that. So along the way, more and more of my world diverged. I started getting invitations to speak at conferences about things I knew very little about, like healthcare conferences, national security conferences, smart energy grid conferences around the world. And I said, what do I know about this stuff? I'm an astrophysicist, but I know data, and I know science, and I know modeling. And so it's your gateway to all kinds of different interesting opportunities in life. And so the emerging technologies I'm going to mention today, and the amount of time I have, I can't talk too much about any one of them individually, but at the core of all of those things is that four-letter word, data. So we're going to talk about that today, but in the context of this revolution that's going on right now. So you're probably familiar with this term, if not, I hope you will be now, and that is we are living through this fourth industrial revolution. Okay, so the earliest industrial revolution over 200 years ago based upon steam-powered engines. Okay, and then electricity came along about 100 years later, and then of course the computer internet age, which we've all been part of, most of us, for the last several years. And now it's really different. It's a different thing. It's not just about computing and internet. It's about the hyperconnectivity between everything, all things. And what's connecting them is not just networks, but the flows of data and information that's shared to and from those things. Data that's produced by, informed by, driven by, the fuel for all these different technologies. So this fourth industrial revolution is truly changing work, future of work, careers, jobs, everything.